Okay, so today I'd like to discuss some general tips for Soldier 76. This is coming from a player who has used him and McCree to climb to Masters, so I'd consider myself pretty knowledgeable. I'm in a very small percentage of players up in Masters, but still I'm not the best. Obviously, I'm not GM or top 500, but this is just going to be a few tips. I'm not sure how many, but first tip is going to be about positioning. As Soldier, you definitely always want to have the high ground, aside from a very few specific situations, which honestly I can't even think of any where you would not want to have high ground. And as you can see in the gameplay, before I died, of course, I was sitting on top of that little bridge on Gibraltar right outside of First Point. I don't know what to call it, but yeah, definitely always have high ground. It's much easier to contest pharmacies and whatnot, and it's just generally a good rule of thumb, regardless of what hero you're on. And tip number two is going to be about ult usage. Now, this is pretty easy generally. If they have no counters to you, like Winston or Diva, counters to your ultimate, I mean, then you have a lot of free reign whenever you use it, especially if you have an Ana to combo with you. And let me think. Yeah, if they have a diva, then you definitely want to make sure that you communicate to your team to focus her down, get her demeched, and then you have basically a free ult. Also, watch for their defensive ultimates like Sound Barrier and Transcendence. And if you do all of those things, then you have a lot of control over the fight with your ult. And only use your ult when your team is with you. It's going to be so easy for them to just put a tank in front of you and just focus you down when you're the only one there. But if it's in a team fight, then it's very hard to focus you, especially if you focus down that diva mech and you have good positioning and whatnot. Now, tip number three, I'm going to call this one dealing with your counters, or dealing with the people that are going to try and what's the phrase, that are going to try and contest your position on the high ground and whatnot, and just generally give you a hard time, such as Pharmacy, Tracer, Genji. Genji's a big one. Your Helix rocket is going to be a huge part of these duels, except for Pharmacy. I'll get to that in a bit. But for dealing with Tracer, you want to make sure that you land it as close to her feet as possible, or if at all possible, try to bait her around a corner and land it to your winner. Land it on her directly when you hear her footsteps. And that is going to put her at like 1 or 2 shot, and it's going to be very easy to clean her up afterwards. And if she does recall, you want to immediately put down your biotic field, because the sooner you get that down, the more time you have to just fight on it, and the harder it will be to kill you. And when dealing with Genjis, you generally do not want to use your Helix rocket until they've used their deflect. Now, while they're deflecting, that is a great time to put down your biotic field, because he cannot damage you during the deflect unless he dashes, which cancels it. Now, once he uses his deflect, it is a great time to use the Helix rocket to just chunk down a big portion of his health, and then you can finish him off if your aim is good enough. And for Pharah, you probably are going to have a difficult time dealing with them on your own. So you're going to want to ask your team for either your Mercy to pocket you to deal with them, or to have a Zenyatta, or to get even a second hit scan like a McCree, or even a Widow if their Pharmacy is that good, or if you're not the best at Soldier yet. Now, this is not as simple as the Tracer or Genji duel, because Pharmacy is 2 players, and it can be very difficult to deal with on your own. You're going to need teamwork to deal with these people, unless you are just a god tier soldier, or if you're placed in a match that is below your elo. Now, another duel you're going to find often is against McCree, and can be a hard one to win, but with this, you just want to keep your distance if possible, so that you can... Soldier is superior at medium and long range, because, well, it's simple. McCree's gun, the damage like goes down very quickly at range, and you're gonna have a much easier time dealing with him. Also, he cannot flash fan the hammer you, which is why it's so dangerous being against McCree in close range, especially a soldier, because your biotic field will not save you from a fan the hammer. It just does too much damage too quickly. So if you're going to have to deal with a McCree in close range, you want to have a teammate, preferably a support, so that you can sustain yourself with your biotic field and the support's healing. That will probably keep you alive through the fan the hammer flashbang. And another tip I want to talk about is it's just mainly your Helix rocket. It is on a low cooldown, so it can be tempting to just spam it whenever, but it is a lot of damage and it's far too much to waste on just nothing. So if it's a hard target, try shooting it at their feet, which will guarantee you at least some damage most of the time, so that you're not completely wasting it. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna cut the gameplay short. Sorry if you were just watching this for the gameplay, but this should help you improve your soldier game if you were just really looking for some tips. And I can't really give you a tip to just improve your aim. It's really just about finding that perfect sensitivity for you and just practicing with it, if that's what you came here for. But that's gonna be all. I hope this helped you. If it did help you, please make sure to like the video and share it if you know of any other people struggling to get good with soldier. More hero tip guide type videos coming soon. A lot more content coming soon. Thank you for watching. Like and share if you feel that this content is worthy of it. Have a nice day. Very sorry. I forgot to mention this one last tip. This is a big one. So, big accident by me forgetting to put it in normal video, but always be shooting with soldier. There is virtually no downside to constantly shooting, unless you're just trying to, I don't know, add to your statistics, which isn't going to matter for much longer because they're removing performance-based SR gain and loss, apparently. But always be shooting. Soldier is an amazing source of just consistent damage, and his reloads are very quick, and you can build your ult very quickly if you're just constantly shooting. At longer ranges, you don't want to be just holding R2 though. You want to be burst firing, and if you are managing your shots well and just constantly laying out damage, you're gonna have very many ultimates, and you're just gonna have a good time. Anyway, thank you for watching.